I want you to think about the most insecure person that you know and how it's not a particularly pleasant experience being around them. How could you enjoy being around somebody that doesn't know how to validate themselves? And if you consider yourself a sensitive soul, then you might see people's coping mechanisms and strategies for that insecurity in such painful, obvious ways. And you can probably see in 10 or 20 minutes in another person what they've spent their whole life running from. And so in this video, we are going to talk about one of the most under-considered ways to break the diet cycle and end the war with food and your body image. And that is the need for approval. And the reason is so simple. We might be looking to somebody else for something they do not have. And that's where people get lost in external validation. This kind of web of people looking outside of themselves to other people who are also insecure. There's a saying in personal finance, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. We are always looking outside of ourselves to be told we're enough, that we're doing enough, that we're achieving enough, that we are enough. I think this is also how people pleasers end up losing themselves in the pursuit of other people. They tell themselves they're just being kind, but people pleasing isn't kind. It's a way to manage your own discomfort at disappointing another person. How can you build a relationship with somebody else if you're just saying yes because of what they might say to you versus actually out of authentically wanting to do it? If I can't say no, you can't trust me when I say yes. And while sometimes change can feel a million miles away, sometimes you can just see something in an instant and start behaving differently, even if it feels really foreign to you at first. For example, if you struggle with people pleasing, you could practice saying no when you don't want to do something, or I disagree when you don't agree with something for a full week. And notice, it's going to feel really uncomfortable. You're going to feel maybe a bit mean or passive aggressive or angry at the start. And that's okay because you're practicing a new skill. And eventually it'll become natural and effortless. When I was 12 years old, I went to my parents and I said, I want to stop going to church. There are some fundamental problems with religion that I cannot unsee and I would like to stop going. And my parents sat me down and they said, okay, talk to us, explain. And I did. And they were so accepting. They said, that is okay. You seem to have come to your own conclusions. And I think that was when I learned that if you put your needs forward, they will be listened to. And that is the start of communication. It's not the end. So if you're a people pleaser, recovering people pleaser, and you put your needs forward, don't think that that means they'll get met. You might meet resistance. And that's okay. It's part of it. And so even though this video might not change how you see it forever, there's two things I want to discuss so that when you see it, you can maybe catch it in action and respond a different way. And the first one is, joy isn't always easy. It seems almost strange to say, but we talk about needing coping mechanisms for anxiety and fear, but we need it for joy too. Because for a lot of people, joy is so unfamiliar to us that we will begin to self-sabotage anytime it gets near. Now, I have talked in the book and on the podcast in the past about how when people begin to lose weight, they are desperate for those comments and compliments. They can't wait to have their efforts noticed, the disciplined one. But then the comments begin to feel much more invasive than they do flattering. And I think that's because the more you need a compliment, you cannot really feel it. And if you cannot feel it, you'll always crave it. And so one of the things I think you have to do is, regardless of how you feel, is let the compliment in. Receive it. Say thank you. Even if you don't believe it. If you don't learn to do this, you're basically telling the person who's saying it to you, you're a liar. I don't trust you. Don't say this to me. And of course, you're going to decondition people from saying nice things to you. Now, it might not be the comment or the compliment that you want. And I know how much appearance-based comments can be dodgy. But I also think most people are desperate to connect. And the truth is, a lot of people have conditioned others to communicate with them through the medium of dieting. I've worked with a lot of clients who have spent their last 10 years identifying as the dieter in the office. They're being good, they're on the plan, off the plan. And then when they get into their own values, they realize, oh, I don't want my life to center around how I look or how I eat. And so they have to go back into a dynamic where that was the connection point and realize that the other person is still stuck there. And now they need to communicate in a much healthier and different way. So joy can feel very strange. And joy will not enter your life unless all the other emotions are welcome to be there. So if you're able to be anxious or sad or stressed without running to something for approval, then that's how you also invite joy and happiness and contentment into your life too, because the full human experience is welcome to be in your life. And going back to the approval piece, I think this is how people get so stuck, because so many people away from a calorie counting app or a meal plan or a weighing scale or a personal trainer or somebody else, They do not know how to approve of their own eating choices. Tell me, is my character worthy or not? It is so poisonous to the human spirit to not be able to go through your life making a single eating decision without needing validation from something outside of you. And the second thing is feel the emotion underneath the temptation to put somebody else above you or below you. Feel the emotion you are not allowing yourself to feel. What is it? Think about what it is and just feel it. Because there's an old saying that I've heard that I absolutely adore. If you think you're better than somebody else, that's comparison and that's ego. If you think you're worse than somebody else, that's comparison and that's ego. But if you think you're equal to another, that's comparison and that is ego. And so you have to get away from this mindset of, will they approve? And switch back into the idea of, do I approve? And that's how your goals stop being a war with yourself. And I think so many people subconsciously rebel from the thing that they want because they know deep down somewhere that this isn't the answer. And so it's so much easier to outsource your anxiety onto that one thing. Overeating is the reason I'm so anxious and afraid. And that's the reason to blame it, because it somewhere in the body is known that if you do deal with that, the anxiety and the sadness might still be there and might need to just be fully felt and sat through. That is a very scary thing to do if you've never done it. And so I hope this video helps. Chat to you on the next one.